coronavirus crisis.
हमारे सामने उन्होंने दम तोड़ा, हम कुछ नहीं कर पाए।
मेरी वाइफ चली गई, मेरे दोनों ब्रदर इन लॉ गए और मदर इन लॉ एक्सपायर्ड हो गई।
Has India lost control of the pandemic?
If you step out right now, you step out to die.
India's COVID catastrophe. Insight, Thursday on CNA.
As I live my life, I am increasingly surprised by my strength, my determination, by the power of my beliefs. I find reward in the honesty of my endeavors, proud of what I have achieved, and convinced there is much more I can do.
This is Singapore Tonight.
Good evening, I'm Dawn Tan. Tonight's top stories. Changi Airport tightens measures to protect passengers and staff. It'll include a dedicated facility and new zones based on risk exposure to COVID-19. A COVID-19 breathalyzer test that can confirm an infection in under a minute. A trial to begin at Tuas checkpoint in the next few days. Autonomous universities can admit more students amid disruptions to overseas options brought on during the pandemic. Authorities get tough on employers for not allowing staff to work from home if they can. 11 firms fined for not ensuring work from home as their default arrangement. The trial of a woman charged for not wearing a mask in public during last year's circuit breaker period has been postponed pending further investigations.
I'm Steve Lai. Also tonight, Myanmar's ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi voices defiance as she makes her first in-person court appearance since the coup. And the World Health Organization urges nations to vaccinate at least 10% of their populations by September. Member states are planning for the next big pandemic.
I'm Elizabeth Neo with your Asia Business Update. Food and household goods prices go up, leading core inflation to rise in Singapore. Plus, bullish on bullion, gold prices near a 4-month high.
Changi Airport will designate areas where arriving passengers come into contact with staff as zones that require the highest level of COVID-19 protection for workers. It's rolling out a new zoning concept based on risk exposure, with the airport now Singapore's largest community cluster. Gwyneth Teo with this report.
The arrival gates, immigration hall and baggage claim. These are places where airport staff may come into contact with arriving or transit passengers. They will be designated as the highest risk zone, and some 4,400 workers in these areas will be segregated. In this zone, all staff will wear a full set of personal protective equipment. Some gatehold rooms have been converted into stations to put on and take off the PPE. Staff can also rest and eat by themselves. The airport is working to deploy only fully vaccinated staff and younger workers here. They'll eventually undergo COVID-19 testing every day at the end of their shift, using a non-invasive method that can give results in minutes. Additionally, passengers from higher-risk countries, which change based on the global situation, will be attended to separately.
I'm currently standing in Terminal 3, but out those doors and across the road is Terminal 2, which has suspended operations since last year and is currently undergoing renovation. But right now, a dedicated facility is being set up there, specifically to tend to passengers from higher risk countries. That's where they'll come off the planes, clear immigration, and be bused directly to their stay-home notice facilities without ever stepping into the passenger terminal proper.
And instead of being allowed to move through the transit halls freely, arriving and departing passengers will have different lanes to prevent intermingling. The airport says such transient interactions were formerly considered lower risk, but this is no longer the case with the emergence of the B1617 variant.
Something new has emerged with this variant, and the risk profile fundamentally shifted for our passenger operations. It has penetrated our defenses and have caused a community outbreak. We are working to reinvent our operational processes and operating model so that we can enhance the safety protocol by June 13.
Last week, the airport said it will close its passenger terminals and Jewel Changi Airport to members of the public to prepare workers for new operating procedures.
Changi Airport Group says that it designed these measures based on an analysis of infected airport workers. 43 staff have tested positive for COVID-19 so far. 23 cases worked in areas with direct contact with arrival and transfer passengers, or what the airport is now designating as Zone 1. That's the highest level of risk exposure. Another 7 worked in areas close by. Zone 2, or the blue area, that's where departing passengers enter after immigration. Now, of these 30 cases who worked in these areas, 18 of them had gone to a food court in the basement of Terminal 3. The food court was open to members of the public. The airport says that that's where secondary infection may have taken place and how the virus may have spread to other airport staff and to the public.
Singapore has approved a locally developed breath test that can detect COVID-19 within 60 seconds. It's the first test to receive provisional approval from the Health Sciences Authority. The technology will be trialled on incoming bus and lorry drivers at Tuas Checkpoint from this week. The developer, Breathonics, is working with the Health Ministry to deploy the test alongside compulsory antigen rapid tests at the land checkpoint. People who test positive for COVID-19 will need to take the gold standard PCR swab test for confirmation. The breath tests are expected to lighten the load on PCR test labs and save time and money at on-site screenings. The system went through 3 clinical trials in the past 10 months. Breathonics is also looking to roll out to other high-traffic locations like airports and sporting events. But one expert says more evaluation is needed.
Because it's detecting volatiles in breath that are not there in healthy people. So if anyone has got any illness, obviously they will have these volatiles. But if you want to distinguish people who are sick from people who are well, then it might work. It might be useful. However, there is a caveat here. The caveat is that if a person is asymptomatic and not showing these symptoms, or these volatiles are present in very low levels, this may be an issue.
So far, we have achieved a sensitivity of 85% and a specificity of 97%. So basically, sensitivity means the accuracy of detecting true positive, and the specificity means the accuracy of detecting true negative. So far, our approval in Singapore can give us access to certain countries, but we are still working on the regulatory part to make sure we are able to sell in those markets.
Singapore has reported 24 new community COVID-19 cases, including 2 unlinked infections. 22 of them are linked to previous cases. 12 had already been quarantined and 10 were detected through surveillance. In all, there are 36 new infections. 12 are imported. 5 are returning Singaporeans or permanent residents. All of them have been placed on stay-home notice or isolated on arrival. The national tally now stands at 61,860.
Nearly 290 residents and visitors of Block 559 Pasir Ris Street 51 have undergone a mandatory COVID-19 swab test as of noon today. Close to 190 tested negative, with the results of about 100 more still pending. The testing operation was a precautionary measure, as 4 cases from 2 different households were found to be living in the block. The swabbing, which took place at the former Coral Primary School, ended today.
Singapore's autonomous universities can take in more students this year as overseas study options continue to be disrupted by the pandemic. The Education Ministry says that it will work closely with the universities to come up with the appropriate number of places by monitoring demand and the quality of applicants. Chloe Chu with this story.
Dorothy Yuan's dream was to study science and technology at Stanford University. She planned her entire academic life around getting into Stanford.